Listen carefully. There is something no one wants to admit, something you all know but avoid acknowledging, because doing so would mean facing an uncomfortable truth about your own nature. Intelligence is not admired, it is hated. And we are not talking about occasional envy or passing jealousy. We are talking about visceral, deep, instinctive rejection. Every time someone more lucid than you enters a room, something inside you twists. You don't admit it, of course. You invent noble reasons to justify your rejection, that they're arrogant, pedantic, that they think they're superior. But the reality is much simpler and more brutal. Their very existence reminds you of your mediocrity and that you do not forgive. Schopenhauer saw this with a clarity that still unsettles us centuries later. He understood that human beings do not seek truth, they seek comfort. Intelligence threatens that comfort because it illuminates what you would prefer to keep in shadow. When someone intelligent speaks, they don't just expose ideas, they expose your limitations. They are not attacking you directly, but their ability to understand what you cannot is a mirror in which you see your own insufficiency, and that mirror must be shattered at all costs. That is why societies do not celebrate their thinkers while they live. At best, they tolerate them. At worst, they crucify them. Socrates drank hemlock not because he was dangerous, but because he asked uncomfortable questions. Galileo was condemned not because he lied, but because his truth was bigger than the collective ego could bear. Here is what no one tells you. Hating intelligence is a defense mechanism. When you cannot compete in a particular field, your brain seeks alternatives to protect your self-esteem. And the most effective one is simple: discrediting. If you cannot reach the intelligent person, you diminish them, ridicule them, portray them as someone despicable. Suddenly, their ability is no longer an achievement, but a flaw. They're arrogant, cold, inhuman. You slap all the necessary labels on them until you convince yourself that being at your level of ignorance is actually a virtue. Schopenhauer described this with surgical coldness. The common man cannot understand the genius because their horizons are incompatible. It is like asking a blind person to appreciate a painting. It's not that they don't want to, it's that they cannot. And when you cannot understand something, your instinct is not to admire it, but to destroy it. Think about your own lives. How many times have you been in a conversation where someone said something brilliant, something that made you feel small, and instead of acknowledging it, you sought a way to minimize it? How clever, you thought, but I bet in real life things don't go so well for him. Or perhaps you said out loud, well, intelligence isn't everything. Of course it's not everything, but that phrase is only used by those who don't have it. It is the perfect crutch to justify your intellectual inferiority without admitting that it is indeed inferiority. And here is the most perverse part. When an intelligent person fails, you celebrate. You don't say it openly, but inside there is a dark satisfaction. You see their fall as validation of your own limitations. If they, with all their intellect, also fail, then perhaps you are not so pathetic after all. Schopenhauer understood that the world does not reward mental sharpness, it rewards conformity. Intelligence is disruptive by nature. It questions what is established, it challenges comfortable truths, it exposes the contradictions everyone prefers to ignore. And that is not forgiven. The masses need certainties, even false ones. They need structures, even rotten ones. The intelligent person comes and dismantles all of that with a single, well-formed question, and suddenly the house of cards of your beliefs collapses. That does not generate gratitude. It generates anger. The crowd does not want enlightenment. It wants confirmation. It wants to be told that it is fine, that its ideas are valid, that its worldview is correct. The intelligent person does not do that. The intelligent person corrects. And no one wants to be corrected, especially not in front of others. The problem is that intelligence is lonely. It is not a choice. It is an inevitable consequence. Schopenhauer himself lived in isolation, misunderstood, surrounded by academic mediocrity that rejected him because he didn't fit their mold. His philosophy wasn't popular because it didn't flatter the human ego. It tore it apart. He said things like, "Life is suffering. Happiness is a fleeting illusion. The superior intellect is condemned to see more pain because it understands more." That doesn't sell well. It doesn't inspire the masses. It doesn't generate devoted followers. But it is true. The intelligent person sees the cracks in everything, and that vision is a curse disguised as a gift. He cannot turn off his mind. He cannot ignore the obvious. He cannot settle for superficial explanations. And this inability to adapt to mediocrity makes him a target. Now think about your environment. How many of you have a co-worker, an acquaintance, a family member who is clearly smarter than the rest? How do you treat them? If you are honest, admit that there is something in you that wants to see them fail, not because they have harmed you, but because their existence makes you feel insufficient. Every one of their achievements is a reminder of your limitations, and instead of using it as inspiration, you use it as an excuse to resent them. That is what Schopenhauer called the vulgarity of the human spirit, the inability to rise and, therefore, the need to bring down those who do. Society has invented an entire series of mechanisms to neutralize intelligence. One of the most effective is ridicule. If someone uses a wide vocabulary, they are called pretentious. If they reason, logically, they are labeled cold. If they refuse to be carried away by superficial emotions, they are considered heartless. Everything is designed so that the intelligent person feels guilty for being intelligent. And many fall into that trap. They begin to hide their abilities, to speak more simply than necessary, to pretend they don't know as much as they know. All to fit in, to avoid discomforting others, to avoid being the target of collective hostility. Schopenhauer warned about this. The genius who tries to adapt to the masses ends up destroying himself. Because when you deny your nature in order to be accepted, you stop being who you are. And that inner betrayal is worse than any external rejection. Here is something that will annoy you. Most of you do not hate intelligence for what it is. You hate it for what you are not. It is a reflective hatred, a projection of your own dissatisfaction. You see someone who thinks clearly, and it enrages you because you are trapped in confusion. You hear someone articulate complex ideas, and it irritates you because you can barely maintain a coherent thought. It is not the intelligent person's fault, but it becomes their burden. Schopenhauer expressed it brutally. The ordinary man measures everything from his limited point of view and becomes offended when something surpasses him. It is not malice, it is incapacity. But the result is the same: rejection. And then there is the social aspect. Intelligence is not useful for conventional hierarchies. In a company, an institution, any structure of power, what matters is not how lucid you are, but how obedient. The intelligent question things, and the one who questions is a problem. Organizations don't want thinkers. They want executors. They need people who follow orders without analyzing whether they make sense, who repeat procedures without wondering whether there are better ways. The intelligent person does not do that. He sees the flaws, proposes changes, unsettles the status quo, and for that, he is marginalized. It doesn't matter how brilliant his idea is. If it threatens the comfort of the mediocre in power, it will be rejected. Schopenhauer lived this firsthand when his contemporaries, lesser philosophers with secure positions, ignored him because his thinking was too uncomfortable, too honest, too real. Education doesn't help either. Educational systems are not designed to foster critical intelligence. They are designed to create conformity. From childhood, you are taught to memorize, to repeat, to obey. Anyone who deviates from the mold is problematic. The child who asks uncomfortable questions is not celebrated, he is reprimanded. The student who challenges the teacher is not seen as brilliant, he is seen as disrespectful. Everything is structured so that you learn that being intelligent is less valuable than being docile. And it works. Most grow up believing that fitting in is more important than thinking. And when someone refuses to follow that pattern, when someone develops his intellect despite the system, he is treated as an anomaly, not with admiration, with suspicion. Here is the deeper philosophical part. Schopenhauer believed that superior intelligence is tied to suffering. The more you understand, the more aware you are of the absurdity of existence, of the inherent cruelty of life, of the futility of so many human efforts. The ignorant are happy because they see no further than their noses. The intelligent are condemned to see everything, and that vision is painful. That is why the life of the thinker is tragic. He does not only face external rejection, he carries an internal lucidity that gives him no rest. He cannot turn his mind off. He cannot stop analyzing. He cannot simply exist without questioning. That is his curse. And the masses, who do not understand this suffering, interpret it as arrogance. They think the intelligent person believes himself superior, when in reality he is carrying a weight they cannot even imagine. Hatred toward intelligence also has roots in fear. Fear of being exposed, fear that your ideas may be dismantled, fear of being shown up by someone more capable. It is easier to attack than to admit inferiority. It is more comfortable to say that the intelligent person is unbearable than to recognize that you are simply not at their level. And so you build an entire narrative where your mediocrity becomes humility and their intelligence becomes arrogance. You reverse the roles, you play the victim, and suddenly you are the one with moral superiority. It is a brilliant psychological trick, but it is still a lie. Schopenhauer would have spat the truth at you without mercy. Your humility is not a virtue, it is cowardice disguised. So what do you do if you are intelligent in a world that hates you for it? Schopenhauer had a clear answer. Do not seek the approval of the masses. Build your work, develop your thought, and let time do the rest. Great thinkers were never understood in their time. They were understood afterward, when the masses finally reached the level necessary to comprehend them. That is not consolation. It is simply reality. If you expect immediate recognition, you will be disappointed. If you work for posterity, you may leave something that matters. But that requires brutal strength, the ability to keep going knowing no one will applaud you, that many will attack you, that you will live in intellectual solitude. Not everyone can endure it. Many prefer to lower themselves, adapt, become less than they are. And that is the greatest tragedy. Not that the world rejects intelligence, but that intelligent people reject themselves to be accepted. So here is the conclusion you don't want to hear. If you are mediocre, stop pretending you're not. Acknowledge it, accept it, and perhaps then you will stop hating those who are not mediocre. And if you are intelligent, stop seeking validation from those who cannot give it to you. Your path is lonely, yes, but it is the only one worthwhile. Schopenhauer died without glory, ignored by academia, despised by many. Decades later, his philosophy reshaped Western thought. That is the difference between building for applause and building for eternity. Choose wisely. Choose wisely. But there is something more, something Schopenhauer understood and most prefer to ignore. Hatred toward intelligence is not only social, it is existential. When someone thinks better than you, they don't just surpass you in ability. They surpass you in perception of reality. And that is terrifying. It means there are levels of understanding you will never access, dimensions of thought forever closed to you, not because of external malice, but because of internal limitation. That is a truth that shatters the ego. You prefer to believe we are all equal, that differences come only from effort or education. A lie. There are innate capacities. There are minds that simply operate on different frequencies. And recognizing this means accepting that perhaps you are on the lower end of that scale, that you cannot tolerate. History is full of examples. Every time someone brilliant proposes something revolutionary, the first reaction is not curiosity, it is rejection. Darwin was mocked. Nietzsche was misunderstood until he went insane. Schopenhauer himself published his masterpiece at 30 and waited decades to receive attention. Not because his ideas were bad, but because they were too good. They challenged the intellectual comfort of their time. Mediocrity is always comfortable with itself, and anything that threatens that comfort is seen as an enemy. That is why intellectual revolutions always arrive late. First comes rejection, then indifference, then reluctant acceptance, and finally, when the thinker is already dead, glorification. But while he lives, while he breathes, he is a pariah. Look around you. At work, in your social circle, in your family, there is someone who stands out intellectually, someone whose observations are sharper, whose solutions are more effective, whose understanding is deeper. How do you react to that person? If you are honest, admit that there is resentment. You don't call it that. You disguise it in other things. He's too serious. He doesn't know how to have fun. He lives in his own world. But beneath those excuses lies the truth. His ability makes you uncomfortable. And instead of learning from him, you prefer to keep your distance. It is easier to surround yourself with equals than with superiors. Equals do not question your ideas, do not expose your contradictions, do not make you feel small. Superiors do all of that without even trying. Schopenhauer devoted entire pages to analyzing this dynamic. He explained how genuine talent is always mistreated in its time because the world prefers the familiar to the extraordinary. The familiar does not frighten, does not challenge, does not force rethinking. The extraordinary does all that and is therefore rejected. The masses do not want intellectual leaders. They want mirrors reflecting their own limitations. They want thinkers who tell them what they already believe, not those who reveal what they should believe. That is why mediocre self-help books sell millions, while profound philosophical works barely reach thousands. Because people do not seek truth. They seek comfort. And comfort is cheap. Truth is expensive. Here is the pattern repeated again and again. The intelligent create, the mediocre criticize. The intelligent advance, the mediocre watch from the sidelines pointing out errors. Criticizing is easy. It requires zero talent. Creating something genuine, original, valuable, that does require ability. And those who lack it take refuge in destructive criticism. They convince themselves they are doing a service by pointing out flaws, when in reality they are merely justifying their own inaction. Schopenhauer called them eunuchs of the intellect, incapable of creating, but very quick to judge what others create. And the world is full of them. They are in universities criticizing from the comfort of their academic mediocrity. They are on social media destroying reputations with too poorly thought out lines. They are everywhere, feeding their ego at the expense of those who truly produce something. Envy is the hidden engine behind hatred of intelligence, but not just any envy, the most toxic kind, the envy that cannot become emulation. When you see someone successful in an accessible field, you may feel envy, but also inspiration. You might think that if you work hard enough, you could get there too. But when you see someone intelligent, you know no amount of effort will close that gap. It is not a matter of hours invested, it is a matter of innate ability. And that realization is devastating. It creates impotent envy, rage without an outlet. You cannot surpass them. You cannot reach them. You can only resent them. And that resentment disguises itself as moral judgment. It's not that they're better, it's that they're worse. They're arrogant, cold, inhuman. Any label will do as long as you do not have to admit the truth. They are simply on another level. Think about everyday discussions. How many times have you been in a debate where someone presents solid, well-structured, irrefutable arguments? Your instinctive reaction is not to accept that they are right. It is to look for some flaw. And if you cannot find it in their arguments, you look for it in their person. You attack their tone, their attitude, their way of expressing themselves. You say they are condescending, that they speak from arrogance, that they don't understand ordinary people. All of this to avoid admitting that they simply thought better than you. This tactic is ancient, and Schopenhauer documented it in his heuristic dialectic. When you cannot refute the argument, attack the arguer. It works because most people cannot distinguish between a valid argument and the person who presents it. They confuse form with substance, and so a brilliant idea can be dismissed simply because the speaker wasn't sufficiently pleasant. Intelligence is also punished because it reveals everyone else's mental laziness. Living without thinking too much is comfortable. Accepting received ideas, following conventions, not questioning what is established, none of that requires effort. The intelligent person cannot do that. His mind is constantly working, analyzing, deconstructing, and that constant mental activity is exhausting. And now that we've made it this far, before we continue, I want to present the following to you. Our book, The Formula of Awakening, is now available. Do you feel like there's something inside you that wants to awaken, but you don't know where to start? Then I invite you to transform your way of thinking, and with it, your way of living. Discover who you can become. Start today. The link to get the ebook is in the first pinned comment of this video. Grab your copy now at a great price. With that said, let's continue with the video. Schopenhauer knew this well. The more intelligent you are, the less rest your mind has. It is a curse. But the masses see this and interpret it as pretension. They think the intelligent person complicates life on purpose, that he could simply relax and enjoy. They do not understand that for an acute mind, relaxing is impossible. The world is full of problems to solve, contradictions to expose, truths to discover. Turning that off is like asking an athlete to stop feeling his muscles. So we reach the core of the matter. Hatred of intelligence is, at bottom, fear of truth. Because the intelligent person sees what others do not, and often what he sees is not pleasant. He sees the hypocrisy in institutions, the falseness in relationships, the absurdity in traditions. And when he points it out, he does not do it out of malice, he does it because he cannot stay silent. But society needs its illusions to function. It needs to believe that things make sense, that there is justice, that effort guarantees reward. The intelligent person comes and dismantles all of that with a simple yet devastating observation. And that is why he is hated. He does not bring comfort, he brings clarity. And clarity, when it exposes the lie, is painful. Schopenhauer said that life oscillates between pain and boredom, and that only those privileged with exceptional minds can find any meaning in the chaos. But that privilege has a price: absolute loneliness, constant rejection, perpetual misunderstanding. That is the cost one must pay for thinking too well in a world that thinks too little. And now that you've made it this far, that you have endured these uncomfortable truths without running away, you demonstrate something. You are not part of the masses who reject what hurts to hear. That already separates you from the herd. But here comes the question that defines everything. What will you do with this? You can close this video, return to your routine, and 2 days from now it will have faded from your mind as if it never existed. Or you can stay. You can follow this path of lucid discomfort that so few dare to walk. If you choose the latter, subscribe to this channel. Activate that damn bell, not because I need it, but because you need constant reminders that there are ways of thinking that go beyond the superficial. Every video I upload is a hammer blow against the mediocrity of common thought. And if you've made it this far, it's because something in you longs for that. Now go to the comments and write exactly this phrase: "The truth does not console." Do it. When I see it, I'll know who really paid attention, who truly understood. And I'll reply personally, because the conversations that matter are not those held with thousands, but those with the few who truly listen. And if you know someone, even just one person, who needs to hear this, someone who thinks too much, someone who feels alone for being more lucid than their environment, share this video. Not for me, but because maybe that person needs to know they are not alone in their clarity, that there are others who see the same, who suffer the same, who understand the same. The herd is immense, but the ones who think are few. Let's make sure we find each other.